So in this story, we're going to talk about hurricanes and the hurricane season, because the hurricane season is now over. And we got lucky this time. Jamaica did not get lucky, unfortunately. They had a tremendously bad landfall with Melissa. And what's sad about it is we didn't really hear much about the damage and destruction. If it certainly hit the United States, we would hear about it. But we didn't hear about the landfall and the destruction in Jamaica because, for whatever reason, I guess the media didn't think it was important enough to discuss. But these things affect the United States just as much as they do Jamaica. And this is a Category 5. And what they talk about in this article with CNN is the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, which officially did end on November 30th, showcased the growing capabilities of artificial intelligence in storm forecasting, which is not a surprise. AI is a octopus with tentacles, endless tentacles that get into everything from medicine to Hollywood and acting, and now determining where hurricanes are going to form and go and things like that. This season, the National Hurricane Center supplemented its usual cadre of traditional models with AI-driven models, including one developed by Google DeepMind. Google seems to have all kinds of different ones. The forecasters say the particular AI model allowed them to reach the, quote, holy grail of hurricane forecasting. Hence, what they mean by that is accurate predictions of rapid changes in a storm's intensity. Now, to me, this is the problem with... Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention earlier, every article so far that I've read in all these stories has what's called an M- in it, which means it was written by AI. Now, they may know enough to have it write properly and go through all the prompts and everything like we have in our free download. By the way, if you go into our description, you can download our free prompt packet. It's a PDF document, completely free, that you can use in order to humanize your writing, whether it be emails, papers, whatever, and make sure that it actually sounds human. It doesn't sound like AI, because AI is not going to write it properly. And they're going to use M-dashes. All of ChatGPT especially will use an M-dash, which is an extra long dash. It's a telltale sign that it's written by AI. And all these articles so far have been. But to me, the holy grail is not the intensity. I think it's easy for a human to figure out what the intensity of a hurricane is going to be based on the temperature of the water that it's passing over and kind of where it's located, and ultimately, how long it's going to be over open water. My holy grail for hurricanes would be the direction that it's going in. So this, to me, I'm going to read this because I think it's interesting, but at the same time, they seem to be really excited about the fact that they're able to tell whether or not it's going to intensify. And that's nice to know, but AI needs to tell us precisely where it's going to go. And even moreover, whether or not we can do something in order to destroy the hurricane, in order to keep it from damaging enormous amounts of property or killing people if it makes landfall, like it did in Jamaica, and we had to deal with last year in the state of Florida. Forecasts that predict the path of a hurricane using traditional models have become far more accurate in recent years. I don't know about that, but intensity forecasts lagged in reliability, particularly in terms of predicting rapid intensification. Once again, I'm more concerned with path than I am intensification. The DeepMind model gave forecasters an unusually high degree of confidence that Hurricane Melissa was going to rapidly intensify about 3 days before it struck Jamaica as a catastrophic Category 5 storm. This was the first time NHC predicted a storm would become a Category 5 monster from the moment of its formation as a Category 1 hurricane. And once again, it's, I just think overall that it's easy enough to predict this. I'm more concerned with path. Predicting rapid intensification is becoming a more critical task. Now, of course, as climate change leads storms to undergo this process more frequently, including right up through landfall. Now, when you mention climate change, this is where it ends up, and of course, this is a CNN article. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. But that's a red flag. When somebody's using that, just throwing climate change out there, then to me it's a red flag. And this is where you have to be very careful when it comes to, looking at this stuff, reading this stuff, because a lot of it is AI driven, AI written, and then also has an agenda to it. And so this is something I think is an interesting thing to discuss and talk about. However, you have to be careful with where these stories are coming from and who's writing them. In their forecast at the time and in recent end of season analysis, NHC forecasters specifically cited the DeepMind model as giving them increased confidence in the forecast. According to Wallace Hogsett, who serves as the Science and Operations Officer at the NHC in Miami, forecasters are becoming more accustomed to trusting the output of AI-driven models, even if their ins and outs are not as well understood as more traditional models. Those traditional models are based in physics and use complex mathematical equations to simulate how heat, moisture, wind, and more move and interact in the atmosphere. Once again, can't we use this to predict with the Gulf Stream and winds and things like that? We cannot predict path more easily? The European model and the American Global Forecast System, M-, long favored tools of the NHC, another M-, take hours to arrive at a projection and require the use of powerful supercomputers to operate them. In contrast, AI models are based on data about historical weather conditions and use that information to simulate a hurricane's likely path and intensity. Now, before saying path and intensity now, but it didn't say that before. They were more concentrated on intensity. They can be run at high resolution, in the cloud, and even on some desktop computers in just minutes. The DeepMind model is an AI ensemble, which means it is run many times at once, each with slightly varying atmospheric conditions, to determine how sensitive the forecast is to the minute, differences that may exist as a simulation begins. This is very similar to what's called a Monte Carlo method, where hedge funds will use that along with other models to run, 10,000 plus possible scenarios to determine what kind of trade can be made. And AI can do that and can figure out, once again, with other models. And I'll be coming out with those AI prompts as well related to determining what is likely to happen in the markets, just like the hedge funds do, to figure out, okay, in all of these 10,000 scenarios, what is the likely path of the market? What is it likely to do? And I think that's what they're doing here. Now, I will say it's pretty good, but at the same time, you also can't take into effect, especially when you're in the market, there's news events and other things that are not necessarily in the control of the AI or in control or anyone's control necessarily, which can throw off the models. And I would think that weather patterns would be similar to that, to where no matter how many miles you ran, you could run 1,000,000 of them. But you can't tell me that throughout the entire history of the Earth since the beginning of time, that any weather pattern has been the same. There's probably a lot of similarities, just like markets, but it wouldn't be the same similarities in weather patterns. So I don't know how accurate this stuff could necessarily be ever, no matter what, no matter how powerful it is. This can help forecasters get a better sense of statistical certainty in the projection and help them decide how much trust to put in the results. Quote, I think it's pretty clear that these AI models are going to be useful, and they're going to be a component of the hurricane forecast process going forward, Hogsett said in an interview. In particular, the Google DeepMind model appears to be one of the top performing individual models. However, Hogsett downplayed the significance of how well the DeepMind ensemble, there's another M dash, or any other model and another M dash, performed during a particular storm, noting that what matters more is longer-term performance across an entire season with multiple storms. And that's what I mean. So you need a ton of data and historical data in order to put into it to at least give you some sort of decent performance, or or be able to have any sort of reasonable predictions when it comes to these storms. And so and also I think there's probably only so much that you can pull from historical data to put into these systems to run them. A representative for Google DeepMind also cautioned against reading too much into the model's capabilities based on its performance during a single storm, such as Hurricane Melissa. So there you go. I mean, that kind of shoots down the whole idea that this system or AI system really did ultimately predict what the intensity was going to be in Melissa. I don't think it's really fair to say that it was, this massive discovery. We'll have to give it more time, but I'm sure it will. But James Franklin, a former branch chief at the NHC, did an analysis and found that the Google DeepMind ensemble beat all the other computer model guidance in terms of its track and intensity and forecast accuracy for the entire season, even though it did not perform evenly with each storm that formed. Even with that result, however, Franklin still urged caution. This is a new tool, and in some ways, it's a more difficult tool to use than the European or GFS. And I've followed these myself. The European and GFS, I'm sure you've seen these when you watch the news. If you happen to be in a hurricane-prone area, you can kind of look at them and see, okay, where are these things going to go? They looked at all these spaghetti models and things like that. But, at some point, those things, I guess they'll either be integrated into the AI or they'll be replaced by it. So he said to forecasters like him, AI models are kind of a black box. And again, they'll become more accurate over time. It looks for patterns, essentially in past data. It's not tied to physics. It can come up with sort of any answer that it thinks it finds in past data. There you go. This can make it hard for meteorologists to evaluate the reliability of an AI forecast, and explains why being able to do multiple, slightly different models run simultaneously is such an important feature of the DeepMind ensemble in particular. Meteorologists are used to other ensemble forecasting models, so using an AI-driven one could come somewhat more naturally for some. Challenges aside, the NHC's end-of-season analysis made it clear that AI is playing a role in improving rapid intensification forecasts, saying significant progress is clearly underway. But let me know in the comments section and what you have to say about using AI and weather prediction. Do you think that it's going to become advanced enough in order to predict weather? Do you think it's going to become advanced enough to be way better than, any sort of meteorologist or ensemble or technology that we currently have. And at some point, is this going to be another deal where meteorologists are going to be replaced and all you have to do, you just go on your phone, AI is going to tell you what's going to happen, and you don't need somebody to explain it to you. The AI bot is going to tell you, and the AI is going to actually replace the person you see on TV with another person that's AI generated and tell you what the weather's going to be. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, AI is involved in everything. And now with predicting storms and things like that, it's just one more thing to talk about. It's an endless deal.